Is It Fun, the series where we play games, talk about them, and ultimately just let you know in the review of the game whether the game's fun or not, because that's really what it's about, right? Up today is Ball X Pit, or Ball Pit, because the X is silent, at least that's what they said in the trailer. It's from an indie developer, Kenny Sun, who brings his first games to console outside of the Switch, which is pretty exciting for him. And boy howdy does he come out of the gates strong. So what is the game? Watching it's very difficult to figure out what this game was. I thought going in it'd be more like Brick Breaker. I had a lot of reviewers say it's like Brick Breaker, but it's not. It's a roguelike with balls, but think of the balls are like bullets, and I would say the game probably more lends itself closer to a much more modern Space Invaders with roguelike tendencies, and instead of bullets, they're balls with ball physics and powers that come from, you know, roguelike metrics and tactics involved. So that's probably the best way I can describe it. You've got enemies falling down, ranging all sorts of things. Some of them fire things at you. The second they get to the bottom, they will attack you, and then once you lose enough health, you die, and then you re-up all over again. That's kind of like the very simplistic way of describing the game. But once you unlock it all and you play this for, I would say it probably takes an hour to start to understand how all the metrics work, because you can fuse balls, you can evolve balls. You can only have 4 balls at any given time, and all of them have different powers. Some of them are, you know, ice, fire, wind, earthquake, which, you know, kind of makes an earthquake around them. There's ghost balls that, you know, don't bounce, they just kind of go through everything. There's all sorts of different balls. I think there's more than 70 in total. And then there's a whole mess load of different characters as well that you can sort of pick and go through. And all of them have sort of different powers and different ways they do things. Some of them, you know, drop more gold during a run. Others, there's a split personality where they shoot 2 balls instead of 1, but they do 50% of the damage. And ultimately, this is where this game becomes like a real sort of symphony of I'll take chaos and numbers, but it kind of works for this game, which is a bit odd to say. I think looking into it and sort of playing it in the first hour, until you really have that like unlocked moment and you start to sort of evolve everything and figure out how everything works, then it is like a real, as I said, it's just sort of a symphony, this game, as it just sort of unfolds in front of you. There's a whole host of different levels as well, but it doesn't lock you in like other roguelikes. I think the biggest thing with roguelikes, that can be a bit of a deterrent, and I'm going to mention some roguelikes that are probably what I would say is the best of the era, like Balatro, for instance. I think that's the best one going. My one annoyance with that game is just, like, if luck isn't on your side in a run, there's not really much you can do to make it work. In this game, you can make almost everything work. There isn't really anything overly useless in the items, and I find that to be almost mind-boggling. I don't think I've ever had that in a roguelike where just nothing has been useless. Now, there's some maps that are going to be geared better for some balls and item specs than others, but ultimately, everything has a purpose, especially when it powers all together and you figure it all out. You also get 4 items on top of the 4 balls as well, and they have different effects. So they might, you know, when you kill an enemy, it might, you know, shoot 70 damage to something next door. You might shoot a bit faster, it might up your crit chance, it might, you know, power up a certain type of ball. Yeah, it's all sorts of things like that, and they level up as you go along. And the way you level up everything is either by picking up the little XP gems that are on the ground, as with a whole host of different roguelikes. We all know what that looks like, especially these sort of top-down ones. And there's also these orbs, these fusions, and when you pick those up, you can either get a random spit out of levels to upgrade your things, or you can start fusing balls together to ultimately free up a ball spot, but then make your balls more powerful. I've said balls too many times. But where this game kind of hooks you in and keeps you coming back for more is afterwards. There's this like a base building section of the game. And within that, you can unlock more resources, you can build up buildings that you can then upgrade to give your heroes or champions that go in there more powers to then do more damage to sort of go through and make the game easier for you, and you know, so you can progress everything along. This is where I've sort of mentioned that the symphony kind of takes place. It's that there isn't a failed run ever, because you get resources. Once you get resources, you go back to this base building bit where you can pick up resources and upgrades and build more buildings. You only get one run at doing that every time you go down into the pit and do a ball run, which is the main thing I think most people have seen. So you go back, you die, you go get more resources, you might power up maybe 1 or 2 different aspects of yourself, might get some few more stats, and then you go back down. There's also experience and ability to level up all your characters as well, and that gives them more powers. and more, strength and all sorts of, stat points. The one thing I will say is there's a handy little guide right next to all the stats with like strength and everything telling you exactly what it does. So I do like that. I hate games where you have to then look at the internet to find out what like agility means. Like, is it speed? Is it everything else? No, it breaks it down nicely all in one place. And that is mostly the game. There isn't, probably, if you want a deterrent or a negative, there isn't really much story here. I don't think it needs it, but, it's quite flimsy in itself. And yeah, it's mostly going into the pit, killing a bunch of people, heading back up, getting some resources, upgrading everything, and going back down to complete a map, and then a level, and then you upgrade your elevator to be able to go further in the pit to go get more resources, and thus the roguelike cycle. The other thing I will mention is that to be able to go into other level sections, you need to be able to complete the level that you're currently on with multiple characters, sometimes up to 5. As you further get down in the depth. So you can't just have one overpowered characters, you kind of got to play them all and try them out. And with that, you start to understand the strengths and the weaknesses of every character. But like I said, there's not a character that I've come across yet that has something that's just utterly weak. There isn't an underbalanced character at all. There's some that, might have be a little bit stronger, but there isn't anyone that, isn't at least above average at this game, or at least have the ability to go through and do things. Now, some of the first runs with the lowly characters might end pretty quickly, but then, hey, you're sending your character back out to go get more resources and more upgrades and more things to be able to make them stronger on top of getting the experience to level up. And it's what I'm sort of saying, it's a symphony and all together, like everything just whips into one ultimate goal. And there's so many different ways to level up and play this game that I just can't even really get into in this review. And that's why this review is probably one of the harder ones I've had to do. It's just because it is so difficult to describe it all. But once you get an hour into the game and everything starts to work together and you start to go like, oh, if I upgrade this at this time and fuse this ball at this time, then I can leave a bit more XP in the table to go get another ball and level that all up. And that's where you just kind of start to optimize everything. And then, yeah, your character starts to do quite well and you start to rip through levels. I haven't really hit a brick wall yet like you do in some roguelikes, but I'm thinking it's coming. We kind of review after a certain amount of gameplay here, just because, we get to that point of, do we want to keep playing this game? And the answer for me is yes, I do want to keep playing this game. We mostly do shooters and driving games on here. This is kind of like a shooter, I guess. A lot of the roguelikes we try as well, just because I like that genre. And this ultimately is just dopamine rush coming back into your system. They just do it a bit differently. It's not like, Deep Rock Survivor or anything where it's just a lot of achievements and you're constantly unlocking things. It's not that type of dopamine rush, but it's enough to get you to come back, and after maybe 45 minutes you get that dopamine rush and you just feel like you've accomplished something, which really you haven't in real life, but your brain tricks you into thinking you have, and that's amazing. Anyway, that is the whole review. So if you did like it, hit the subscribe button. Oh, I forgot to say, is the game fun? Yes, of course the game is fun. I would recommend getting it, especially if you've got Game Pass. The game comes with your Game Pass Ultimate. I'm not going to say free because they've raised the price of Game Pass Ultimate for $35 in Australia. So that's fun, but they listen to our feedback. Remember, Microsoft listened to our feedback. So I'm not sure which one of you kept writing to them and saying, hey, can you raise the price of Xbox Game Pass? But we're here now. But yeah, otherwise, I don't think it breaks the bank. I think it's about $20 AUD. So yeah, I think it's pretty reasonably priced for how much game there is and how many hours you can play it. But yeah, if you did like this video, hit the subscribe button. We're a wee baby channel and that really does help us out. Otherwise, comment down below anything to do with this game, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whether you don't like this video, whether you do like the video, just because we're kind of in a little bit of a bubble, my brother and I, when we make these videos, so it's always good to get your opinion on the game. And also, sometimes some people give negative reviews because their foot hurts, so we don't want to really get into that habit, so definitely call us out if you think something's a bit off in a review. Otherwise, hit the like button, because then it algorithms it, and it sends it to someone else that's like you, and then it algorithms it to someone that's like them, that is also like you. Yeah, I don't know what this algorithm is, but it's a nightmare. And yeah, anyway, my name is Brenton, this is RetalinLive. I'm going to edit this up, cut this up, and get on out of here. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, see you, and bye.